I spent a lot of time talking to different intelligence agencies while I was working on the Looming Tower and then afterward. Um, so FBI, CIA, National Counterterrorism Center, Defense Department, you know, in some ways I was acting both as a writer and as a citizen. I felt the need to inform some of these agencies about my observations. They were pretty uncharitable in terms of giving me their inside intelligence, but uh, it was, I remember one intelligence guy who was in Afghanistan when I was there, and he said, "Well, I'd like to do what you do, talk to people." I said, "Why don't you get out of the embassy? Go out there and talk to people. They're there, they're waiting but they listen, they don't talk. They is NSA and this sort of thing. That's where the intelligence largely derives, and so I went to Egypt and spent all this time talking, Ayman al-Zawahiri's relatives and friends and stuff like that. I went to Saudi Arabia and studied bin Laden, and I went to Afghanistan and Pakistan and really, well, France and Spain where Al-Qaeda was acting up, and just traveled a lot. I'm not saying that intelligence officers don't do that, but uh, they didn't seem to have very much on the ground experience. And partly they were more exposed than I. I am a reporter. Uh, and, yes, there might have been some danger in, talking to some of these people. Um, but it's not like I had American secrets to carry, and I wasn't trying to hide secret. My job is to publish the information, not to hide it from anybody. And so intelligence officers are in a different spot. The trick as a writer in the Looming Tower is that a lot of the information came from intelligence officers and from terrorists. And, they're not exactly reliable. And so it was always a trick to try to, check, the information. And sometimes you'd have to make a note about the complexities of the circumstances in which I received this information. But, I interviewed more than 600 people. And, a lot of that was trying to get alternative views on a subject, whatever subject I might be writing about. And then you begin, like with the FBI, they were slow to talk to me. But then the more information you get, the more interesting you become to them. And then also there is the sense, the creeping sense in their awareness that this is the historical record. And if they try to be duplicitous in some way, I'm not just saying the FBI was like this, but any intelligence agency, then it would likely be shown to be wrong in this account, because I would take a yellow legal pad and I always write, all of my note taking is on these yellow legal pads. And hang on a minute, Ray, I'll show you one just so you get a sense. All right, I'm sorry, it took me a minute. I'm not as organized as you make me out to be. But this is how I start. I write down the names of people who typically have already appeared in the press. Just, oh, he's a psychiatrist at the CIA, or he is a police chief in New York City, or I just write them down. And then when I get their telephone number, I put it over here in this little margin. And then when I interview them, I highlight it like that. And so this is the first thing. This is the second one. These are entirely full. And what at some point at the FBI, I would always make sure they got a gander, just go page after page after page. And pretty soon, they start to say, I want to amend something I said a little earlier, so, and they also got the idea because, they had at some point different colors of the highlighter. They thought that was a code. And so now I purposely highlight with different colors. It's like pixie dust, just throw in their eyes. This guy is so organized that all of these things. That is the way that I would go about populating the universe of the story. And you ask somebody when you finished your questions, who else should I talk to? And then they lead you to somebody else you hadn't heard of. And eventually that stops. You've run to the end of the wall. Who's there. Not everybody will talk to you, but all those who could or would talk to you, they form the what I call the horizontal axis of journalism. That is, you talk to as many people as will talk to you. And then there's a vertical axis, which is some of those people are more important. They have more information. They're wiser. They're funnier. They're willing to have a drink. They're just, people that when you have information that you want to run down, who to call. And with the Looming Tower, there were, several people, I would say a dozen out of all these 600 people that became extremely important contacts, either because they were, in the FBI and they were talking to me, or they were, bin Laden's brother-in-law and stuff like that. And those kinds of people are irreplaceable. And you can call and ask silly questions to, bin Laden's brother-in-law he was married to bin Laden's favorite sister. And one of his 4 wives, he and bin Laden had decided they're each going to have 4 wives, just like you can under Islam. And so I couldn't talk to bin Laden's sister as a, non-Muslim, non-Arab, non-Saudi American. The idea that would happen would be, but Jamal Khalifa would interview her for me, and I would give him questions, and every 4th night he would go stay with his wife, and they come back with the answers to my questions. Those kinds of relationships are irreplaceable. You get information unorthodox, and it may be in its manner, but still, it's a way of getting access. And but the more people you talk to, the more people will talk to you. And in Scientology, for instance, there was a lot of fear among people that were in the organization or had gotten out and still felt persecuted. And what made them feel safer was the idea that 100 other people are doing this too. And so safety in numbers, that made people feel more confident, and also more confident that the story would be told correctly.